Hello, welcome to another Ready Aim Roll video. Today we're taking a look at one of my favourite of all time ttrpgs, Blades in the Dark, published by Evil Hat Productions and written by John Harper. This game, if you are someone who almost always plays the rogue in D&D, you are probably going to enjoy this game. So yeah, without any faffing about, I'm going to do the usual, like, subscribe, really helps us out. Be really lovely if you did that as a nice Christmas present to us. It's free. But yeah, Blades in the Dark's great, so let's crack on in. Have all your usual illegal stuff, your credits, contents. Can I enter your contents? Because it's not a huge book if we compare it to the Warhammer 40k RPG. I know it's upside down. In terms of thickness, it's mostly just the cover that makes it thicker, maybe 10, 20 pages. Come on, there we go. But in terms of size, let's pick you up slightly. There you can see that it's fairly slight compared to most RPGs. So yeah. Obviously we've got an introduction thing on the setting, the city of Duskwall, or Duskwall, depending on how you want to pronounce it, and some of the most evocative art I've seen in a RPG. It's all the art in the book is this sort of black and white, heavy ink sort of look to it. It's great. I love it. So yeah, thing on the game, the setting, players, characters, the crew. So all the things that you'd need to know about it when you're starting an RPG, what you need to play, a bit of the core system, judgment calls, conversation. So this is a lot more of a conversational game than some you might be familiar with. And here we have a breakdown of a session. So yeah, we've got the free play. Characters get to have scenes and have a chat. Talk about the actions and consequences of previous events and gather information for the current session. Choose a target, choose a plan. Yeah. Downtime. So if you've got to deal with anything, or I think it goes this way actually, it's a bit weird. The engagement roll, which is cool. The score itself, so if it's a heist or a break-in or an assassination or escorting contraband, yeah, it's really cool game. Actions and attributes. So this is a dice pool game, so you will have d6s equivalent to the number of dots here. So for example, this character clearly has 1 dice in hunt, 1 in prowl, 2 in skirmish. So yeah, and the the attributes also work downwards. So if I as the GM wanted someone to make an insight roll, they would look downwards instead of across. They'd roll 1 dice, or prowess, they'd make 2 dice, and so on for 3 dice for resolve. It's a really simple game where a 5 or a 6 is a success with some sort of complication. A 6 is a crit, so it goes exactly how you wanted it to. A 1, 2, a 2 or a 3 are a failure, and obviously a 1 is a crit failure. A bit on stress and trauma. So as you do things, you'll accrue stress and trauma. So instead of, again, having your health points, you've got points of trauma. So, yeah, it's a really interesting way of doing things. The progress clock, which is something that I like to borrow in my games going forward, because it's just a really cool system. Instead of saying, you've failed your stealth check, instead of going, okay, you are now hostile, everyone will now consider you hostile, have fun with this combat, you can go, okay, you've knocked something over that's made a bit of noise. People are now going to be a little bit wary and are going to start, I'm going to start a clock counting down to the alarm being raised. So depending on how tight you want the situation to be, you could have a four segment clock, or a 6, or even an 8. So yeah, and then anytime something happens, or sometimes just when you feel like it, you can fill in a section, and then in the case of this stealth scenario, once that 4th section is filled in, the alarm goes off, for example. Yeah, it's a really cool system for amping up attention. A thing on the position of a role. So, controlled, risky, and desperate, which is quite cool. It's quite a simple system to grasp, and something you don't necessarily have to announce as the GM. It's just something there that you can think of and go, okay, what position are these lovable idiots in, and effect. So great, standard and limited. Again, on setting, position, and effect. So different things will affect the position. Different things will affect the effect. English language is fucking weird. Harm. I was thinking of harm when I was talking about trauma earlier. Anyway, yeah, harm is basically this game's HP. It's really, really cool. Rather than being like, oh no, I've lost some HP, you can go, I've got 2 points of harm, which, 2 points of level 1 harm, isn't great. And then obviously once you've taken that, if you've got no other things to fill up in your harm box, you're dead, basically. It's a lot more of a narrative approach to the HP system most games use. Fortune rolls sort of says what it is, really. It's how fortunate you are, especially at the beginning of a score. After you've planned, how well has that plan been executed? That could mean anything from you've arrived and there are more guards than you expected, or if it goes really, really well, it could be the opposite. There's less security than expected, or you get in and even though you're definitely not meant to be there. No one is any the wiser. Stuff like that. Anyway, bit on gathering information. I really need to reread this because I really, really, really want to run it. It's just such a fun RPG. It's just great. Bit on player versus player, which I wouldn't advise in this game. It's just, I don't advise it in any game. I just don't enjoy it that much personally. Like, it has its place, but not for me. Then I'm much more a cooperative games fan anyway. A bit on factions, how to use them, how to play with how at what sort of standing your faction, your crew is, and compared to the other factions around the city. Advancement, but getting better, though you can get really good really quick in this game. So it's I home rule this a little bit differently, just about going and choosing when players can advance. And then we come on to the characters and the sort of classes or playbooks, as they are called. So, yeah. Quite simple. Just about choosing your race, your class. Nice summary there. And here are the classes. Cutter, sort of the main fighter, the one that does all the dirty work mostly. I mean, they can all do dirty work, but especially that one. Hound is sort of your tracker, your sniper. If you want to, have an assassination mission, you could potentially have your crew's hound hiding in another tower, waiting for a signal to take the shot. Excuse me. The leech is, as it says, a saboteur and a technician, which I think is really fun. The lurk, I mean, all of them are fairly quintessential rogues, but there's especially sneaky, getting in and out of places, picking rocks, stuff like that. The slide, again, I love the art. It's so good. Yeah, a lot of them are quite simple. And all of them, as you will have noticed, give you a little bit of a background idea for your friends and rivals, because that you can have that affect the game too. Obviously, if you have different names and different ideas, this is just examples and ideas for you while creating your characters. The spider, sort of the brains, the planner, the manipulator. I mean, again, a lot of them are manipulators, but good lord. Yeah. Sort of the slightly more magical character, because there is magic in this world. It's very weird, magical. Basically think Dishonored, I guess. It's very much inspired by Dishonored. Yeah. Get to the creating your crew. So your crew can sort of have you can name your crew. They can have a speciality, which might be assassinations. They could be thieves. They could be, you know, all sorts. Anyway, you can have a bravos, so your mercenaries, thugs, your sort of handymen. Again, I highly recommend you pick this up for yourself, because I don't want to, the stuff that I just don't want to spoil. Smugglers does what it says on the tin, really. Yeah. Then we get to planning and engagement. Which is sort of the way you intend to go about your business. So, yeah, it's all quite self-explanatory, really. But it might affect how you enter the situation and how the fortune roll is interpreted. Whoopsie. Get a quite nice example score. Which also, I should say, if you want to watch a actual play of this, I highly recommend the Oxventure does Blades in the Dark series. It's really good for learning how the game is played and how it feels in terms of characters and interaction. A bit on downtime, usual healing, dealing with your heat, because obviously as you do more nefarious activities, the law is going to be on your ass, as are rival gangs who may want to take you out of the picture. You might be, getting too big for your boots. Vices, so this could help you relieve stress. Normally used during downtime to relieve stress, but you can overindulge, which is great. Yeah. Then how to play. Talking about the fiction first approach to the game, rather than going, this isn't a game to be min-maxed. This is a game where you look at what's going on. You think, okay, let's talk about things first. Like one of my favorite things about this game is, rather than spending half an hour talking about how you're going to do the mission, you just flashback. You can do something in the score that might require you to hand over your weapons, for example. You might be going to a party, you might be armed, you could be armed to your teeth. The guard will go, hey, you can't take that in there. You as a player could then go, okay, I want to call a flashback to a time, maybe a day before, where I spoke to one of the guards who was able to smuggle in probably something small, or depending on if you wanted to push your luck, something bigger. You'd then make any rolls to convince and persuade them that person, and then you just jump back into the game. You'd hand over all your kit, confident that you've got something in the party to use, which is really cool. Yeah, like some really, really good points that I think a lot of games sort of gloss over, like just the whole thing of not talking yourself out of fun. Like, do things because they're fun, not because they make, yeah. Like, so long as it makes narrative sense, do it. Yeah. Build your character through play. Don't go, oh, I've got all this stuff. You can come in, like, obviously have some sort of a backstory, but it's often fun to have a character in this who's sort of a blank slate, so you can then build on them. They can accrue scars and bumps and bruises and trauma and all this and that over time, and that will create a more fleshed out character. And then GM goals, so a whole thing I'm running with how to run the game. GM actions. So again, quite a simple game, though it's kind of a interesting one to run, because the players have a lot more freedom in this than they would in a game like D&D. Whole thing on GM bad habits, which I should probably read. So yeah, a thing on not calling for specific action rolls, but how you should let players go, hey, can I make this sort of thing? Yeah. So yeah, it's I think it's a lot more interesting to have players, especially if they're more experienced in TTRPGs, go, okay, I want to do this. I think it would be this sort of role because of this, rather than just going, oh, you want to do that? Be that role then, cool. Which is something that I try and bring over to my other games that I play, where, if someone can make a good argument as to why they'd do something, and how they'd make a roll for it, then I'll let them roll using that stat or that skill. If it's a completely different thing that they're trying to do, it's going to be a harder argument. And just thinking about something that happens in the next episode of Starfinder, which is almost going to be out. Should be out by Christmas Eve, hopefully. Yeah. Nudge that back into place. Need to wrap this up because I've only got a few minutes left on the memory card, but it shouldn't take too long, because we're almost in the sort of fluff section, which is a lot of the book. Bit on strange forces, so on ghosts, Hull, which is like a empty, basically a robot inhabited by a spirit, which is really cool. Vampires, so you can have characters, if a character dies, they can potentially become one of these things and carry on playing. Yeah, which is really cool. A lot of this is more advanced stuff that I haven't explored yet. So I've only played one session of my own and only ran one session, which sort of went a bit wrong. I was very loose with how, and for some reason the because my phone's dying. So I'm going to have to wrap this up even quicker. So yeah, this is the fluff and lore section, which is dense. That is a good chunk of a book that I'm going to sort of gloss over, not only for time constraint reasons, but also because it's just interesting for you to learn and read yourself. So yeah. Again, more incredible art. We've got a map of Duskfall, which you can find a lot of places, and even people who have annotated it. Then we get into the individual districts and their, important locations. Then we come to the factions, which there are a lot of factions, but as you can see, they're only like a half page. So it's while there are a lot of factions to read, you don't necessarily have to A, read them all at once, or B, memorize the whole thing, which isn't too bad. Like the lore for this game can seem quite a lot because there's stuff right down to different names of the week. Like there's a whole calendar for this world that's been created, which can seem like a lot. And then like a generator for people / NPCs, devils, more on the Shattered Isles, which is only briefly touched on. And then we come to the end, which is the Kickstarter backers. And finally, the index, which again is extensive because this book is chunky. Like it's a chunky little thing. But again, I love it. I want to play so much more of it than I already have. So yeah, once again, thank you for watching this video. Hope you enjoy it. If you want to see more ttrpg content, then stick around because, like I say, Starfinder's coming out soon. It's not a great episode in terms of the production quality, but I've done what I can, and I hope you enjoy watching it. In the meantime, there's going to be more content like this. I'm heading off home to the southwest tomorrow. By the time this comes out, I will most likely already be home. So, yeah. Thanks for watching. Take care of yourselves. See ya.